Good evening, and thank you for joining us for a very special community program tonight. My name is Beth Clapper, and it's my honor to serve as president of the Board of Directors of the Jewish Federation of Greater Indianapolis. My husband Steve and I have been involved with the Jewish community here for many years, and I don't remember having a program quite like the one we are about to experience. But then again, I can also say that none of us has experienced a year like the one we've just endured. It is remarkable to think that we were, as individuals and as a community, just 1 year ago. By early May 2020, we had become all too familiar with terms like stay-at-home orders, social distancing, and quarantine. What many of us hoped would be a quick pandemic, if there is such a thing, clearly was not just a small inconvenience. People were sick, hospitals were filling up, businesses were shuttered, and we are all feeling the pain of the pandemic. While this past year has indeed been difficult and challenging in more ways than any of us would like to remember, we also witnessed remarkable things. Even when physically apart, our community still came together to help each other, truly embodying our annual campaign theme last spring of apart but never alone. We were there for each other, for our family, friends, neighbors, and strangers. Our community programs continued, and we learned to engage with each other virtually, just like we are tonight. And as our community has done for nearly 120 years, we came together to raise much needed funds for our community's annual campaign and the COVID Emergency Community Relief Fund. I want to thank each and every one of you, from our donors and volunteers to our professional staff, and all of those who helped our community get through these incredibly difficult times. Moving forward is this year's campaign theme, which is pretty fitting for the year we have had and how far we have come. We are in a very different place as we gather tonight than we were 1 year ago. We are really excited that you're joining us to commemorate what we have come through together and how we can move forward together and stronger. To that end, we are excited to welcome two very special guests to share their different life journeys and to hear their powerful stories to help us as we all work to move forward together. Indy native and famed American Jewish musician Dan Nichols will share his story on how the Indianapolis Jewish community was transformative in his life and instrumental in shaping his successful career. Dan will then perform live for us a very special and inspiring song. But first, get ready to learn about a beloved friend and longtime community member, Jenni Berebitsky, in her award-winning short film and how she moves forward through her 10-year battle with ALS and the lessons she imparted about the importance of moving forward through life's challenges. We are truly honored and humbled to welcome Jeff Berebitsky to share his family's story and to introduce the film, Grateful, the Jenni Berebitsky Story. We also want to extend a special welcome to members of Jeff and Jenni's family who are joining us tonight. Jeff was born and raised in South Bend. Soon after graduating from Indiana University in Bloomington, he met his future wife, Jenni, who grew up right here in Indianapolis and as a member of IHC. In 2005, Jeff co-founded an insurance archaeology firm where he has worked for the past 16 years. And in 2006, he and Jenni married. After Jenni's ALS diagnosis in 2009, they moved back to Indianapolis to be closer to their families in Indiana, where Jeff cared for Jenni for more than 10 years until she passed away in 2019. It was shared with me that Jeff and Jenni spoke often with each other about the world in which we live and ways to protect and improve it. They reflected on people in society who are struggling and those organizations working to build bridges. Through the Federation's Life and Legacy program, the Berebitskys have offered their support to the JCRC and their intent to carry on their legacy of supporting the Jewish community. As Jeff pointed out, This is one family's perspective on how giving to the Federation delivers value to our Indianapolis community. And in Jeff's own words, he, quote, currently receives most of his life direction from their 13-year-old son, Philip. I want to thank Jeff and Philip and their families for joining us tonight and for all that he and his family do for our community. And with that, I am pleased to introduce Jeff Berebitsky.
Thank you, Beth, for that wonderful introduction. My name is Jeff Berebitsky. My son, Philip, and I have been a part of the Indianapolis Jewish community for a little over 10 years. My late wife, Jenni, was raised in Indianapolis, so our connection runs a bit deeper than a decade. Thank you to the Jewish Federation of Indianapolis for presenting Jenni's film Grateful, the Jenni Berebitsky Story. When I learned of the Federation's annual campaign theme for the year, Moving Forward, I immediately thought of Jenni's quote from the film. She said, "I think all any of us can do is acknowledge what the feeling inside of us is and choose whether or not we want to move forward. And that is what I've done." What Jenni was speaking to were her many losses and her choice to continue living. Jenni was diagnosed with ALS in 2009. ALS is a neuromuscular disease that caused Jenni to lose most of the muscle throughout her body. Jenni's losses over the course of 10 years were many. From hugging Philip to practicing medicine, from putting her clothes on by herself to enjoying a peaceful walk in the park. Yet, in spite of all of her losses, Jenni managed to still smile. She chose to live with ALS. Jenni was an expert at facing her reality, mourning the loss, and coming out radiant as ever. The courage she possessed to acknowledge what is so, what is real, was due in large part to her many communities. Jenni confronted the prognosis knowing we would be there to lift her up. Jenni's wisdom, she was not alone. In many ways, this pandemic has given us all, knowingly and unknowingly, insight into what Jenni lived with on a daily basis. Now we too experience the sadness that comes from not embracing our grandchildren for an entire year, sharing a meal with friends, loss of going into work, not attending school, feeling the horribleness of isolation. So much was taken away, and so many of us are unprepared. This is where I hope Jenni's wisdom shines through. The path of a mourner is best served when walking alongside a community. On August 29th, 2019, I said goodbye to Jenni for the final time. In my depth of despair, what I could not predict was how much my communities, old and new, sustained me, motivated me to work towards healing, to mend my shattered heart. I dove headfirst into my Jewish book of mourning. When I surfaced and looked around, what I could not see at the time was the Federation working tirelessly to help me to get to a better place. Through my IHC congregation, Bethel Zedek's Morning Minyan, the JCC, the JCRC, the Federation was there each deliberate step of the way. As I focus on recovering from the coronavirus, I once again look no further to Jenni's brilliance. I will lean heavily on my communities. I will not face this new normal alone. I will, alongside my son, choose to live life knowing there are good people surrounding us, with the Federation working behind the scenes, helping us all to move forward.
ALS is a tricky disease. Just when you think you've got it figured out, I can handle this. something else is taken away. So I went to go see a neurologist, a friend, and I convinced myself it was MS. It fit the profile in my mind. It made perfect sense. And then that doctor, he knew better. He took one look at me and my quivering tongue and told me I had ALS. And from that moment on, my life is never will be the same. A few days later, we went back to that doctor. I had an MRI and some lab work in the meantime. And he said, oh, it all confirms my diagnosis. ALS. You have 18 to 24 months to live. And it's been nearly 9 years. I met a man who's a professional motivational speaker. When he met me, found out what was going on, he looked at me and said, doctors will give you a diagnosis, but only God will give you a prognosis. And those words were so profound. That doctor didn't know me, didn't know what my future was. None of us knew. Before I had ALS, I was a very active person. I loved to go hiking. I loved traveling. I loved being spontaneous. At times, it's the worst hour you could ever imagine, being trapped in your body, not being able to move, barely being able to yell for help, an itch on your nose that would make you insane. I mean, there are times where I feel like a rag doll. I flop around. But then on the same hand, I live such an amazing life with the people around me. I mean, they do everything. We have so many supportive friends and family, and the friendships I'm able to make because I can't go anywhere. I'm right here. They're so intimate. It's really beautiful.
She's able to look at the gifts, and she's able to have some really rich relationships with people that if she was perfectly healthy, she might not have. She would be going about her life just like the rest of us, kind of taking a lot for granted and, just having immediate family and friends, and that's it. Where instead she just looks at life differently, and I do think she radiates out to everybody around her.
They're my people. They're my cheerleaders and my supporters and my community. One time, I was in a hotel with my friends in Chicago. I was in bed, all tucked in, and when you know it, I had to pee. I was like, I don't want to do that up again. And I asked my friend, is there anything in this hotel room that resembles a bedpan? And the rest of our friends woke up in the morning. We warned them not to use the yellow towel in the shower. Let's just put it that way. In the beginning, it was rough. I did not like asking for help, directing questions, felt really bossy to me at first. But once I really realized and learned more about the act of giving and the act of receiving, to receive is really to give, and to give is to receive. And then the unexpected challenge came and totally changed our lives. I feel so cruel. Like, I've got the cruel disease now. Out of Boston came this viral phenomenon that took a not a very well-known disease and elevated it to celebrity status. And from the time Philip challenged his entire elementary school to accept the unexpected challenge, and every student, every teacher went outside, and the students got to dump ice water on their teachers. He was a king, and I became a rock star. I have a wonderful husband, and we plan great events that have us moving towards the future, whether it be participating in a sprint triathlon or throwing huge parties for my birthday. They're all a symbol of us being grateful for this life, and as us get out of the bed and moving forward, then our son Philip demanding that we wake up. I am a client of hospice now. I have been for like 2.5 years. From a year, I had taken a turn. It was time to talk to Philip. So we sat him down, And you mentioned that mommy has ALS. I know. And you may or may not have noticed it's gotten worse over the years. You've gotten worse? Yeah. And it's starting to really affect my breathing. And we don't know when, but it's most likely that ALS will take my life. Mom, you're gonna die? Well, everyone's gonna die. We don't know when, but yes, I will probably die sooner than later. A real solemn look on his face. Oh, no. That means it'll be just me and Dad. Yikes. But I started to laugh. And then from there was, well, oh man, are we gonna have to wait in line at the airport? Are we gonna be famous anymore? What about Dad remarry? Will you be single? We're reassuring him, no matter what, we will always love him. I will always be with him. Look right at me. Mom, are you gonna haunt me? I said, only if you mean 2 girls. And then yes, I will haunt you. There's something very freeing about accepting that death is a part of living. I mean, it takes away a lot of fear. And then fear and grief and even being cold, all kind of it mixed together. Is it I'm afraid of dying, or more I grieve dying before my son is old enough and take care of himself. But I think all any of us can do is acknowledge what the feeling is inside of us and choose whether or not we want to move forward. And that's what I've done. live a normal life. It's ordinary. I live an extraordinary life. There's beauty and humor everywhere. One thing about working on this film has made me realize I wish I always came with subtitles.
You'd like to have subtitles all the time.
I would like to have subtitles all the time.
We'll see what we can do, Jenny.
To say that that is a tough act to follow is an incredible understatement. In talking with Jeff yesterday, I shared with him that as we were planning tonight's program, I was thinking I didn't envy whoever had to follow him and Jenni in the incredibly moving video we just saw. Little did I know that it would be me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Skolnick, and I'm the Senior Director of Development at the Jewish Federation. In my role, I have the privilege of overseeing our community's annual campaign, which is what brings me here tonight. First and foremost, I want to thank Jeff and his family for inviting our community into their lives and for sharing with us such a powerful story. And while I still don't envy whoever has to follow Jeff and Jenni tonight, I can honestly say, as I address you now, that I am truly humbled and honored to be doing so. It was a pleasure meeting and getting to know more about Jeff and his family and how Jenni's own outlook and determination to move forward moved Jeff to reach out to us when he read about this year's annual campaign theme of moving forward in the Federation magazine. It also answered an important question my colleagues and I have often wondered about whether people really do read the magazine. So thank you on both counts. Jeff, to you and your son, Philip, and your family, I want to say that even though you may have spent a few less years in this community than Jenni, you are every bit a part of our community, and our whole community is better for it. The video we just saw is nothing short of incredibly moving and powerful. Each time I have seen it, I learn something new. And this time, I have a very different perspective as my wife Francia and I welcomed our first child into the world just a little over 4 months ago. Listening to Jenni talking about the conversations with your son Philip and all that she wants for him and knowing all the wonderful things that await him, so long as he's good to girls, was heart-wrenching in a way that I am not sure I fully appreciated before becoming a parent myself. We promised you all that tonight would make you smile, cry, everything in between, and hopefully leave you feeling inspired. I think of Jeff's courage that he shared with us and Jenni's determination to move forward. I think of the promise that the future holds for Jeff and Jenni's son, Philip. And I look at my own daughter, Molly, and think of the endless possibilities that await her. I find comfort in personally witnessing how our community came together this past year, as we heard Beth Clapper share with us a short while ago. This idea of helping each other, being there for each other, coming together as a community, and being strong for each other defines what the Federation has done for more than a century and what our annual campaign accomplishes every day of the year. Jenni talked about the act of giving and the act of receiving, and it is striking to me how we all need both. I want to thank all of you participating in tonight's event for coming together and for all the ways you support our community. Thinking of Philip and Molly and all of our children and grandchildren, and the kind of community we want them to grow up in, the kind of Jewish community we want for ourselves and for them, today, tomorrow, and for generations to come, is perhaps the perfect segue to our next guest for tonight's program, Dan Nichols. Dan is an Indy native and grew up right here in our Jewish community. Dan is a product of the URJ Jewish camping movement, and he has toured Jewish summer camps across North America for the last 20 years, where he often serves as an artist in residence and teacher for congregations and camp communities. As a classically trained singer, Dan received his Bachelor of Music degree in vocal performance at the University of North Carolina. In 1995, realizing the potential for music to make powerful connections with Jewish youth, Dan established the Jewish rock band 18. Since that time, Dan and 18 have released 13 albums, with many of their songs becoming Jewish communal anthems throughout North America and beyond. In 2009, he founded Show House Rock, a song leading workshop for Jewish high school students. And Dan has performed around the world, including a live concert in Israel at the historic fortress of Masada. Dan and his band 18's experiences have been captured in the documentary film Road to Eden, and Dan has been featured at conferences and conventions of nearly every major Jewish movement. Dan grew up attending Indianapolis Hebrew congregation, and he spent much of his childhood engaged in various programs at the Indianapolis Jewish Community Center. Tonight, we are delighted to have Dan join us to talk about his life experiences and how our Jewish community helped shape the person he has become and his successful career. We will also be treated to a live performance of his popular song, Chazak, which shares his message of being strong, celebrating our lives, and strengthening one another. It has been a pleasure getting to know Dan, and we look forward to a not so far off time when we can welcome him home for an in-person concert. Without further delay, I present to you Dan Nichols.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate you, and I'm so grateful to be with everyone tonight. Thanks for taking time out of your busy lives to join all of us in supporting the Federation of Greater Indianapolis. My story is, I guess, a little unique. Both my mom and dad grew up Presbyterian. They met at Broad Ripple High School. And I share that because when I was born in 1969, we were not a Jewish family. And I have a memory of not being Jewish. And then I have a memory that all of a sudden we were. That makes me laugh every time I say it because it's kind of silly, but it's true. I want to tell you that it was probably 1976. I was thinking when Michael asked me to join you tonight, I got the gift of putting, the memory cap on and going back and got to go back in time and thinking about where I was when. And probably 1976 was the first time I walked into the Jewish Community Center. Things that strike me, things I remember that come right to my nose on this is playing soccer on the soccer fields out back. I remember a teammate, Rusty. I got to be on his team, and he was a golden child. No one could catch Rusty. It was inspiring to play soccer with Rusty. I remember my sister taking gymnastics classes in the side gym. I remember my dad and I playing racquetball on the racquetball courts and having the best time. Rusty Israelov. Okay, man, this dude, he was Magic. Someone just texted me. Oh, Jeff did. Thank you, Jeff. So what I want, those moments are really wrapped in happiness, of real joy, of what is this place? It feels so welcoming and open and exciting. Playing racquetball with my dad was that was my first chance to play sports with my dad, and we had the best time. And I remember there were these like an observation deck above the courts where you could watch. And I remember watching this one guy. I think the first time I really ever heard quality curse words was sitting on those bleachers, the observation deck, looking over the racquetball courts, and hearing this guy just tear it up. The guy as old as my dad, he was having a bad day on the racquetball court, and I just remember just being like, "This is so fascinating." I remember loving watching. I have a memory that the Indiana Pacers, when they were an ABA team, practiced at the JCC. And I have a memory of watching a practice of theirs, or hearing while I was walking around in the gym, "Oh, the Pacers are practicing here. Be cool, be cool." I remember piano lessons with Mrs. Gervitz. When you walk in the main hall, you make a left, and on the right there was a little piano, and she gave lessons to my sister and I. Anytime I see a pencil being written on paper, I remember Mrs. Gervitz and her handwriting. I remember going to the very end of the hallway on the left, and there was a multi-purpose room, and playing bingo for the first time with my family. We had a spaghetti dinner. I ate more garlic bread than I can ever remember in my entire life. And I remember the sound of laughter. This is the thing I was thinking about. It seems like a basic memory to forget. But what I realized, I was noticing, wasn't the bingo or the spaghetti dinner as much as I was a community in celebration, in joy, just loving being together. It was the first time I'd experienced anything like that. I was probably 7 years old, and newly Jewish. My whole family converted. That's another story we can talk about another time. But the point about that is that it was one of my formative Jewish memories of community, just being together, people liking to be together, celebrating. There was laughter. It felt authentic. It felt structured. It felt safe. There was joy there. So those are just a few fun memories of the JCC. And I hope I'm making clear how intense those memories were, because it was all new for me. This was a new community, was a new life for me, framed in physical activity, sports, relationships, being with my dad. So there's all that. There's also another part that I want to share with you is one of the most striking, powerful Jewish moments of my life. It was difficult at the time, and I'm grateful for it. And it was really, it was hard. This was 1976, 77. And my memory was that when you came in the front reception hall of the JCC, this is what I remember. There was a photo exposition of photographs of the Holocaust. And they were graphic. Bodies piled 25 feet high. Dead bodies. Naked children running screaming down the street towards the camera. Piles of shoes. It was traumatic as a 7-year-old kid to see that. It was confusing. I didn't get a chance to talk about it with anybody that I remember, but I do remember feeling empathy getting struck inside of me of, this is how Jewish people have been treated, and I'm a Jewish person now. And what does that mean? It got my attention. It was complex. It was real. It was painful. It was sobering. And it drew me in to what it could mean on one level to be Jewish. And I share that painful memory with you because, what did I write down? Yeah, it rocked me to my core, and it was an essential Jewish memory. I think looking, like being a 51-year-old guy now, thinking about what I do now, that's in there, and that has an impact on how I write, what I sing, how I teach, how I lead prayer. I can remember visiting Hooverwood as a little kid. The first time I really was, as a little kid, 7, 8-year-old kid, hanging out with older people and noticing that there's a power in relationship. That happened at Hooverwood. And I want to speak to a little bit about IHC, Indianapolis Hebrew Congregation. My mom and dad were taking an Intro to Judaism class with Rabbi John Stein, probably 1975, 74. And at some point after several months, John Stein came to my parents and said, "It seems like you want to be a Jewish family." And my mom and dad, as they tell it, said, "Well, wait, that's something we can do?" And he said, "Yeah, if you want to, I'll help you." And they said, "Yes, please." And a year later, we were a Jewish family. I was in Cantor Stephen Richards' choir. I loved that experience. I loved singing with other kids. I felt safe in that group. Cantor Stephen Richards is a very famous Jewish composer that I've since learned about, and I got to sing in his choir. I got to be in Nancy Gittelson's religious school class, and she made me feel seen. She made me feel heard. She made me feel cared for in ways that my other classroom learning at Eastbrook Elementary and Lincoln Middle School were not effective at doing. So that was all happening. Then you put me one Sunday morning in the social hall because we're told we're going there. Well, I'm probably 8 years old, and there's a man with a beard, some big glasses, and a slide projector, and we all sit in folded chairs looking in the social hall up at a screen, and there's this music goes, "There's a land that I see where the children are free," and there's this slideshow of all these kids at summer camp jumping off diving boards, playing on basketball courts, running on soccer fields, and it's this place nearby called Union Camp Institute. And after the slideshow, my mom says, "Danny, this camp is right around the corner from our house. It's a Jewish camp for Jewish kids. They go for like a month. Would you like to go?" And I said yes. And I was 9 years old. Rabbi Ron Klotz at that time was just my camp director. He was just trying to run a camp. I was his camper. And then I got older and I got to work for him as a counselor for 3 summers. I learned my guitar at camp. I learned to be a counselor at camp, which I'll say taught me to be the parent that I want to be. I had my bar mitzvah at camp. I met my best friends in life at camp. And Rabbi Ron Klotz, as I continued to grow up and become in my mid-20s and get curious about maybe I could do this for a living, play guitar and sing songs, Ron Klotz brought me back to Gucci in probably 1996, 97, and I found myself in the dining hall singing with camp, just completely sparkling with goosebumps and tears, and realizing, this is where I want to be the rest of my life. And here we are. And no offense to me, I'm not 27 anymore. And I'm here with you tonight telling my story. Indianapolis is so essential to Jewish Indianapolis, is so essential to why I am me and what I value and what I want to focus on. And I'm forever grateful. So as we think about how to move forward, I know that my stories may be a little bit unique, and the more we can refocus our energy and commit to what is really important, what do we really value, and how can we share that, and how can we have the courage to share our passion for Jewish living in all facets, some that I mentioned and beyond. If we can have the courage to share our passion for Jewish life, it's my belief and my experience, I'm an example of what that does for our Jewish community. So on behalf of Dan Nichols, 1976, thank you, Indianapolis. Thank you, Federation. Thank you, Jewish Community Center. Thank you, Indianapolis Hebrew Congregation. Thank you, Union Camp Institute, also Goldman Union Camp Institute. Thank you, Michael, for this opportunity. Thank you, Jeff. for running things behind the scenes. And I want to dedicate this song to all of us who are making this moment tonight. We're paying attention. This phrase I'm about to sing, it says, be strong, let us be strengthened, which is a way of saying, as I see it, it's when we say these words, we're saying this when we finish a book of Torah. We're marking a moment, and as I see it, we're saying, look, we've done this for years, we've done this for a long time, and we were committed to it then, and we're doing it right now, and we're here, we're committed, and we're going to keep doing this. Let's make sure that this moment continues to matter. It mattered before, it matters now. Let's make sure it matters in the future. And thank you for letting me share my story. I'm so grateful. I feel so happy, so joyful in being able to reflect on that and share that's my true story. So as we move forward into tomorrow, into the next moment and the next moment, may we all be strong and be strengthened. We have come from near and far to raise our voice in song. And the more we join in the refrain, the more we feel strong. Chazak, Chazak, Veni Chazak. There is a power in this place and time. It shapes the rest of our lives. For when we return each year, we find a truth we can't deny. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Be strong and let us celebrate our lives. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek. Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek. As we sing, we link ourselves to those who came before. And we're one with all those yet to come. Our strength, it will endure. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Be strong and let us celebrate our lives. Be strong and let us strengthen one another. Chazak, Chazak. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Be strong, let us celebrate our lives. Be strong, let us strengthen one another. Chazak, Chazak. Be strong, be strong. Chazak, Chazak, v'nitchazek.
That was absolutely beautiful. I don't know about anybody else, but I've wiped my tears. I'm smiling and everything in between. And wow, I think you said it best, Michael, when you said, how do we follow that? Dan, thank you for sharing your story with us tonight. My kids have also grown up playing on those fields out back and hanging in the multi-purpose room with our community, joined in laughter and celebration. Our Indianapolis community has already left its mark on them as it did on you. Thank you for that heartfelt and moving performance of Chazak. It really is the perfect song for tonight's program. When you sing, there is a power in this place and time. It shapes the rest of our lives. This year has shown us the importance of our community and how we must come together, strengthening one another and sharing our passion for Jewish life. And Jeff, thank you again to you and your family for sharing your story of incredible strength and courage. We are so thankful that you reached out to us to help create tonight's powerful program when you heard our theme, Moving Forward. You and Jenni embody this principle and help us see the important role community plays in providing support and healing. And for that, we are grateful. For those of you who may not know me, I am Jennifer Schwartz, and along with my partner in crime, Larry Terrell, we serve as the 2020 and 2021 annual campaign co-chairs. While 2020 is now behind us, thank goodness, it's been a tough year. And as Jenni reminded us, we must acknowledge the feeling inside of us and choose whether or not we want to move forward. And we are moving forward as individuals, as families, and as a community. When we agreed to be co-chairs for our community's annual campaign for 2020, like everyone else, we had no idea what was in store for us. The pandemic quickly changed everything we knew and were planning, but one thing didn't change. The Federation, our partner agencies, and other Jewish organizations in our community continued to be there for all of us during very difficult and challenging times. This was no easy feat, as you have heard many times. The reason we were able to respond to this crisis in the first place is because of your support for our community's annual campaign. Our annual campaign provides the basic infrastructure that supports our Jewish community. It delivers vital funding to sustain the Federation and our partners, ensuring that critical programs and services are available. It is why we are here to respond to crisis when it strikes, and why we will be here for the community long after this has passed. But this past year has been unlike any other we have experienced. In such a short period of time, businesses closed, people lost their jobs, hospitals filled with those who were sick, and there are those we lost to the pandemics whose families are still grieving. We saw tripling and quadrupling of social service needs throughout our community, and this is an effect we're still seeing at Popsy's Food Pantry. And there continue to be requests for financial assistance to help pay medical bills, utilities, rent, school costs, and other necessities. And we anticipate that these needs will continue for many months and maybe even many years to come as the effects of the pandemic continue. But tonight is not about just recalling all of the challenges and the difficulties of this past year. Quite the contrary. It is also about the positive stories we have heard from our agencies, and it's about how we have weathered this storm together and how we can move forward together and stronger. Our guests tonight, both Jeff and Philip and Dan, and the powerful and moving stories and lessons they shared give us a lot of insight into how we can do that. They have shown us the importance of coming together as a community, about being there for each other in good times and bad. And as we consider the song Chazak, just performed so beautifully, it's be strong and let us strengthen one another. Larry?
Hello, everybody. You know, if our annual campaign theme wasn't already moving forward, maybe be strong, let us strengthen one another would be a fitting theme. And thank you again to Dan and Jeff Berebitsky for the stories that they told us tonight. Of course, being strong and strengthening one another is what our community's annual campaign is all about. This past year, between our annual campaign and the Emergency Community Relief Fund efforts, we came together as a community. We strengthened one another, and we raised nearly $5 million to help our community, our families, and our Jewish institutions navigate unprecedented times. Tonight, we recall all that we've been through and how far we've come together as a community. We're recovering and healing and moving forward. We're honored and so humbled to be part of such a special community. And as annual campaign co-chairs, we've gotten to experience firsthand the remarkable power and resolve of our community coming together and strengthening one another. So as we look ahead to the remainder of 2021, we all hope for a better and brighter times ahead. And unlike last year at this time, there seems to be light at the end of this tunnel. What's more, each of us have the ability to make that light even brighter and the tunnel that much shorter through our critical support for the annual campaign. For everybody who has already supported the 2021 annual campaign, we thank you for your generosity and for making an important difference in so many lives. For everyone else, we encourage you to build on tonight's program and to show your support for our community's annual campaign. So in the weeks and months ahead, we'll be conducting personal asks for this year's campaign, but you don't have to wait. You can make your gift online right now by visiting jewishindianapolis.org/donate. So again, that's jewishindianapolis.org/donate. Or if you prefer to make a pledge and send your gift in at a later date this year, you can email your name and pledge amount to campaign@jfgi.org. So campaign@jfgi.org. We also ask that you keep in mind the increased needs our community has experienced. The increased requests for help continue to be taxing on available resources, and any additional support you can offer will go a long way towards helping the Federation and all of our partners who are working to address these needs. Okay, so as we close tonight, we want to thank you all for joining us. We want to especially thank those who made tonight's program possible. Our special guests, Jenni Berebitsky and Dan Nichols. Thank you both for sharing such powerful and moving stories and providing inspiration to us all. We want to thank Beth Clapper for her leadership. Thank you to the staff who made tonight happen, our annual campaign team led by Michael Skolnick and Irina Brodsky, our marketing team led by Andrea Krasinski and Joel Bustamante, and our IT co-director Michael Smoger and our director of operations Jeff Lincoln. We also want to thank all of the Federation professional staff, along with our community volunteers who work tirelessly, and let's face it, often thanklessly, 365 days a year to help our community in countless ways. Lastly, we want to thank all of you for joining us, for caring so much about our community, and for generously contributing the vital support that's needed for us to do the important work that we do here at home, in Israel, and around the world. We look forward to coming together again on June 2nd for the Federation's annual meeting. If you've not yet signed up to attend that meeting, please be sure to do so. Here's a sign of improving times. The annual meeting is going to be a hybrid event this year, so you can attend from the comfort of your own homes, but we also have limited socially distanced seating available if you wish to attend in person. It's good news. Thank you again for joining us tonight. We hope you have a good evening, and may our community continue to go from strength to strength.